Om Sri Sai Ram. Humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagawan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Sai Ram to one and all. Despite the circumstances that prevent us from being together and basking in His glory, Swami has been absolutely kind to all of us, giving us the access to have online celebrations, which have been going on gloriously for the last 4 days, which began with the Ladies' Day celebrations, followed by an SSC and a youth offering. Subsequent to that, we had a blood donation. And today, after having had our share of being with Him and in His glory this morning with the International Organizations program, we are here this evening as we wait for the dawn of His birthday with His property, the students of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. All this is not possible without the support and dedication of a young and energetic media team of the Sathya Sai International Organization Singapore, and a sincere thanks to them for helping all this happen. As excited as you are, I am to introduce the 3 diamonds. Simplicity is his middle name. Sweet as honey is the voice that was groomed by Swami to inculcate the bhava and the bhakti into it, that the Lord personally trained him to get this aspect to devotional singing or bhajans. Coming from a family of blessed devotees all the way from the state of Assam in India, he started his journey as a student of pre-university education at Vrindavan and went on all the way to complete his doctorate at Prasanthi, Nilayam. He even served as a staff, a faculty in his institution. His very name means Hira or diamond. I'm very, very honored and happy to welcome Brother Hirok Chankakoti to this satsang. Sai Ram to you, sir.
Sai Ram. Thank you so much, Venkat.
The second Ratna who is here today is a big fan of sports and Grama Seva, which is fitness of the body and food for the soul. Observation and analytics are his forte. So if I were to use this analogy, that when an electron from the inner shell of an atom is excited by the energy of a photon, it moves to a higher energy level. In fact, this forms the initiation of X-ray spectroscopy, which is the worldly education specialization of our next Ratna, who graduated in physics all the way from a bachelor's degree to his doctorate and subsequently served as a faculty member at Prasanthi Nilayam. The biggest bonus of all this was his close proximity to observe and serve Swami at Prasanthi between 1985 and 2008. So honored and blessed to have Brother Sai Nath with us as the second Ratna of this satsang. Sai Ram to you, sir.
Sai Ram.
The youngest alumni among the trio today, he has a flair for speaking and a quest for higher knowledge that have helped him speak several times in front of the Lord during summer courses and Thrice sessions. Acting in plays is a challenge, definitely. However, directing them when you know that there is a divine director actually doing the direction is even a bigger challenge. And this particular Ratna of ours had the honor of being part of it several times. Added to that, he had the bhagyam of being a staff of Swami's Center for Healing in Bangalore for 12 years. His love for Swami and the enthusiasm to do his work is amazing. I don't need any further words to describe our youngest panelist, Brother Y. Aravind. Sai Ram to you, brother.
Sai Ram.
The topic that we will be reminiscing on today is something that the organization has been adopting for all of us to bask, reflect. There has been so many perspectives and points said based on Swami's teachings, of course. But what we would like to see today is we are looking forward to having it in a perspective where all of you as students have not just gone through education, but you've gone through higher education by being in that proximity in your student days, which gives you a whole different dimension to defining various messages of the Lord. So, with that in mind, I'm going to request Brother Arvind to start off on this topic. Happiness is union with God. Jai Sir, I'm looking forward to the discussion over the next couple of hours. Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. May all worlds be happy. Om Shri Sai Ram. It's a wonderful opportunity to be part of this August Assembly, to be speaking with our brothers and sisters from Singapore, and to be given this wonderful chance of being part of Bhagwan's mission, and that too his 95th birthday celebrations, albeit virtually. But the joy of reminiscing on his wonderful name, his wonderful actions that have changed our lives, the happiness that he has provided us with, and that happiness which has instilled him in our hearts, and that happiness which we enjoy as union with God. Fundamentally, there are three words in this wonderful statement. Happiness is union with God. Now, it may sound esoteric, it may sound far-fetched, but Bhagawan has translated it in many different ways, customized his teachings to each one of us in our own way. That is why he's the personal God, and that is why when we think of him, we feel happy. When we feel him, we feel happy. When we do something that he told us to do, we feel happy. When we do anything in which we are able to feel his presence, we feel happy. And that is happiness, is union with God. Now, Brother Hirok belongs to that wonderful generation who were blessed right all the way from Vrindavan, even before the university was set up. Brother Hirok belongs to that wonderful time when Krishna used to play with his gopikas in Vrindavan. Sainath, Brother Sainath sir, he was also my teacher when I was studying in the university. He taught us physics, but then yes, his thoughts were way metaphysical. So there was so much learning that we had. So Brother Sainath is from that era with Bhagwan's proximity. And me, well, I am the youngest, and should I say the latest in the lot. But Bhagwan's teachings were customized to each and every one of us. I would like to invite Sainath sir, if would you set it off by defining as what do we understand by happiness as union with God, as Bhagwan put it, because we can hear it from you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Arvind. It'll be a pleasure to set off the tone of this panel discussion. Uh, Happiness is union with God. Now, there are several words encased in this sentence. You have happiness, you have union, and you have God. While it is very difficult to dissect each one of them and talk to them individually as separate words, but when they join together, it gives rise to one beautiful experience, a beautiful kind of a sentiment, which I think should be discussed in toto. First, I would like to begin by trying to put my finger on the pulse of what I feel is actually happiness. So, my experiences with Bhagwan have taught me one thing, that happiness is a byproduct. Happiness happens to be a byproduct. It is not a goal, it is a journey, and it's a byproduct of inherent love. So, anyone who has been touched by love, anyone who has experienced by genuine love, is bound to be happy. And one cannot be happy unless he has been touched by that particular love. So I always consider that happiness is a byproduct of a contact, experience of a love that is unfathomable, that cannot be explained, and most important, it is constant. It doesn't vary with the surroundings. It doesn't vary with various factors or parameters. So this is what I would define as happiness. One other point I would like to mention of why is happiness with is considered as union with God. I'm reminded once I was talking about an incident in one of the talks that I gave in Bhagwan's presence. I narrated an incident which I read in one of the magazines by the Satsangh organization of Japan. It speaks about a samurai warrior. He was a very disturbed individual. He wanted to go and find out what is actually peace, what is heaven, what is hell, and all that. So he approaches a master, a very renowned master, and he, with all humility, goes and tells him, Master, I have come to you to seek, understand what is heaven, what is hell. And the master opens his eyes and tells, Who are you? And this person says, Master, I'm a samurai. And this master tells him, Who told you you are a samurai? Have you looked at yourself? What makes you think you're a samurai? Which person would even demean themselves by calling you a samurai? The samurai was very upset. He got up with anger, he unsheathed his sword, and he rushed towards the master. And then the master very peacefully joins his hands and tells him, There opens the gates of hell. And then the samurai understands in whose presence he is. He throws his sword down, falls at his feet in humility, and prays to him, asking for forgiveness and realizing that he's in the presence of a great soul. And the master then opens his hands and says, There opens the gates of heaven. So what? No gates appeared, no gates disappeared, nothing came into the picture, nothing vanished from the picture. What came and went was a perspection, a realization. So I
Fantastic.
think this happiness is exactly this. It has to be internal. Nothing external can give us that true happiness which all of us ask for. Perhaps later down the discussion, I would like to also dwell upon an aspect of why we consider happiness to be a journey and not a goal. It's a very important aspect because that clearly will tell us what's the difference between the happiness and what we call happiness as bliss, and which is what we should be looking for. So sometime down the discussion, maybe I will also dwell upon that. So yes, happiness is totally internal, and yes, it's a byproduct of the fact of one who has experienced and who has tasted that eternal, seamless, and wonderfully pure love of God.
Fantastic, Zainad sir. I mean, you have literally encapsulated everything that people could have imagined. Hirok Bhai, may we have
Yeah,
your perspective?
yeah. I mean, as Sainath said, that like take for example, the love which Swami emanates actually is like a magnet for all of us. Most of us were influenced by that love, and then we came into his fold, right? That is something which Swami wanted us to experience. But then there is another aspect to that. The There is also the need for a particular, when Swami wants to pour his love to you, there should be a vessel which has to receive that love, and that is the love, that is the heart of each of us, or each devotee of Swami, which has to uh, get uh, ready to receive that love. That heart should be, all of us should journey towards subservience of our own will to the divine will. That's the first part. The second part is also the fact that, see, as we continue to progress in our lives, right, uh, the increasing realization that Swami is everything and we are nothing in comparison to Swami is something which should be a part of our lives, and that is what, see, basically there is that love which is there. See, all of us, the whole world is made of two basic things, right? The truth and love, right? Truth is the internal aspect of each one of us. All of us are God, right? In terms of the truth which is being there, the consciousness which is there in all of us. That emanation of that or manifestation, external manifestation of that truth in each of us is what love is, and that's what Swami actually gave to all of us, and all of us should ourselves for receiving that love, for receiving that for being subservient to the will that Swami has, or the mission that Swami wants us to play in. and uh, be aware of the fact that as we progress in our journey towards happiness with union with God, all of us are nothing as compared to what Swami is everything.
So if I
That's
understand by,
yeah,
the beauty lies in not only Bhagavan giving,
yeah,
but also us receiving.
yes, correct,
So as Swami says, there is patrata, there is a certain deservedness that we need to ensure, and that arises because of our self-effort to empty the bowl, to clean the bowl and make it available to receive the love, to receive the grace of the Lord.
yeah,
As the great Prahlada said in Bhagavatam, Vidya, Vinaya, Vinaya, Patrata, Patrata, it goes on. So the deservedness that arises of starts from Vidya, and Vidya is that learning. And as Swami says, living with God is true education, and happiness is union with God. As
correct,
beautifully Swami says, it is not in God, it is not above God, it is not behind God, it is with God. So, as we say in the Navaveda Bhakti Marga, the last one, Dasyam Sneham Atmanivedanam. Swami says, be with me, don't be behind me. You might not be able to keep up with me. Don't be in front of me. I might not follow you, but be with me, and I will take you along with me. So, fantastic, Sainath sir. The beautiful definition that you gave, that happiness is not just a goal. Happiness is a process. It is a journey. And to enjoy that journey, to be the real traveler who is able to look at the daffodils as he walks through the path and not just look at the sun behind the hills in the future, in the distance, the way Hirokbai has put, the mind, the cleanse, the beauty of the heart, the clarity of thinking. And I should let us remove the mind entirely. Let us simply say purity of heart, emptiness of the heart to receive the ambrosia of God's love. Now that will give rise to this happiness, which is the union with God. Now, Sainath sir, I'll go back to you again. It would be wonderful if you could narrate some experiences wherein Swami, before that, I'll just say one sentence. Some of us say, Swami, we quote Bhagawan, we says, pleasure is an interval between two pains. So if somebody is going through pain, we tell them, see, pleasure is an interval between two pains, Baba. So just wait for it. This is also a training process. And when we go through pain, we find it tough to remind ourselves that, actually this pain is an interval between two pleasures. And we have to check out on those pleasures to see that we are in that. So Bhagawan is not always the giver. Sometimes he waits for us to digest it and understand, assimilate. As Swami says, understanding unte adjustment untundi. That assimilation, that digestion of Swami's love. I'm sure you would have seen, both light and day and twilight also when Bhagavan gave his blessings. Could you share some instances? After that, I'll request Hirokbai also to share his thoughts. Sainath, set it off, please. Your experiences as a student. Happiness is union with God.
It's a very important point which was made. That is, everyone, when we are actually suffering, people tell us, don't worry, pleasure is an interval between two pains. That's a common statement we make. But just look at the statement. It says a pleasure is an interval between two pains, but the person is actually undergoing pain at that moment. Why have we never said to anyone, that pain is an interval between two pleasures? How come we have never said that? So, in fact, it's a good thing you pointed this out, because I asked Bhagwan once this very question. Bhagwan narrates this statement many times in his speech. He says, pleasure is an interval between two pains. So, I actually asked him once, I said, Swami, when people are actually undergoing pain, why have we never told them that a pain is an interval between two pleasures? That means you are surrounded by pleasure, so look forward to that pleasure. And then Swami said, there's a reason for that. The very purpose of making the statement is not served whether I put pleasure in between two pains or whether I put two pains between a pleasure. That I requested him, Swami, please. And he said that people generally tend to get focused and attracted to that which they can associate themselves with. A pain is something which human beings can easily associate with. But I wonder how many of us can recollect Bhagwan himself narrating in one of the first discourses. I do not know whether it was 1956 or 57. It was one of the first discourses when Bhagwan said, pain indicates the birth of a new life. Pain
Wow.
indicates the birth of a new life,
Wow.
always, without fail. So
Fantastic.
if somebody is undergoing a pain, the right attitude we should take is that it is going to lead to the birth of something new. What is that new? We need to be excited to know what is that new thing. That is
Hmm.
the way Bhagwan expects a life to take place. Of course, the whole thing sat off because it was an incident wherein some message I had to carry to a devotee led to some unpleasant incidents, for which I blame myself. I said, so I was responsible for this sad state of affairs. And then Bhagwan said, see, why do you think that devotee is suffering? That question stumped me. I said, why do you think that devotee is suffering? I said, Swami, he is being troubled by many people because of what I had to carry the message to the ashram authorities. That the devotee is being put to all kind of hardships, so much so that he is being even asked to leave the ashram now. And I was responsible because I had to carry that message. And then Swami asked me something that I really never, and I understood why this concept of pleasure and pain is all about. He said, what you are calling as pain for the devotee is actually a blessing I'm giving him. Neither do you know it, nor does he know it. You look and go and talk to the same devotee a couple of years down the line, he will tell you what good has come out in his life from the pain that he suffered now. So
Fantastic.
this pain and pleasure is a contextual description which we give based on what we are undergoing and experiencing at this point of time. The actual union with God is experiencing that bliss, which helps us to take the state of Sthita Prajna. So when we flatten the curve, not sinusoidal, not cosinusoidal, when we flatten the curve into a straight line, the life goes on wavering up and down, but the steadiness of life remains stable. That is when it doesn't bother us anymore whether a pain is an interval between two pleasures or a pleasure is an interval between two pains. And that is a state which Bhagwan expects us to come to. So
Hmm.
why is he leading us to that state? It's very clear. He is using a contextual description of our life by highlighting a pain, because that
Hmm.
is what we can easily relate to. And
Hmm.
what Bhagwan says is in his experience, he immediately says, you should understand a pain is always onset of the birth of something remarkable.
Awesome.
Sainath
So
Awesome.
sir,
that's
just a
that's
point
that's what
here.
I would like
Just
to
a
share
point.
with when you said this. Now,
Sainath sir,
yeah,
so can you say it's pain is like a chapter heading? It's not the content. It is like it tells the transition between a chapter to a chapter, which in terms of a birth that you were talking about, every pain is the birth of something that's going to be a new experience subsequently. Correct?
it's one way of looking at it. But if you actually ask me, I should realize in the first place that the book is consisting of several chapters.
Correct.
And that
Hmm.
is not a single chapter. That realization has to come to me first. Then I will look forward like a suspense, what is in the next chapter. So I don't
Yes.
mind that. I cannot say I want to read only this chapter in the textbook. I'm sorry, I do not wish to read the other chapters. We are going to progress nowhere in our life. So that excitement of life includes accepting all this in the right perspective. Yes, I would say that that's one way of looking at it.
So, in the
So
journey of life, multiple chapters from, as is said in the Bhagavatam, Bhajagovindam, from Balya all the way to Vruddha, we go through different chapters in our life, and that is in the physical chronological perspective. But then, when we are with God, every single moment has its lesson to teach, and every single moment leads to an anticipation. Wow, if I clear this test, this is going to be my result, and I'm ready for the
exactly,
next test. So Swami
exactly.
says test is the taste of God, and therefore happiness does not lie in just clearing the test, but understanding that the tests are indeed leading to more and more and more happiness. Am I right, sir?
That's exactly what Bhagwan
Awesome.
told us in the language which we understood also. He said, see,
Exactly. See,
unless I test you for your LKG, I cannot promote you to peak UKG.
awesome. Awesome.
So you cannot tell, that you cannot declare, I want to do PhD straight away. Who is going to clear the process before that? I have to go through that pain. I have to take the test. I have to pass the test. Then only I progress in my life. So that is the point which I was about to highlight. So our life with Bhagwan, yes, it began with our entry as students. That is what it is. I hope really that I have given some further points to deliberate on this panel discussion. Yeah.
That was also because the entry is the pleasure.
Yeah.
Once we enter, the so-called pain of refinement begins. I remember the first words which Swami spoke to me when I joined in summer course in 92 were Bangaru. And I was super happy. I mean, Bangaru in Telugu actually means gold. In Tamil, it's Tangam. In English, so I was very happy. It's a blessing actually in our vernacular. And I was super happy. I go back to the room and my room leader just pours a cup of cold water on my head and says, "Bro, your process has started." Swami said, Bangar. I said, I was aghast. I said, wow, what do you mean, brother? Well, Bangaru means gold. I'm so happy. Swami blessed me. The first words that Swami spoke to me were Bangaru. He said, no. The first words which Swami spoke to you were telling you, I'm going to fry you. Because only when gold is put through fire does it really become pure. So the entry is a pleasure. Yes, joining Bhagawan's university, becoming Bhagawan's student is a pleasure. But then the Lord says, now that you are mine, I will ensure that I will make you in my likeness. You like it, you don't like it. That
I would,
process of refinement.
I would just like to add sometime later down the discussion, if time permits, I would like to actually tell you
Right.
uh, why we should be excited to take these tests. Because Bhagwan used to tell, uh, just like a good teacher, like he would never test a first year student with the paper which a PhD student is supposed to write. In other
Right.
words, in Bhagwan's language, I
Hmm.
would never put you through a task for which I do not think you are qualified for. He said
Great.
that. So I will narrate a very hilarious incident actually later sometime, not now. I
Right.
think others should talk.
So
Maybe if the
Hirok Bhai,
situation permits, we'll come back to that.
Hirok Bhai, no, let's have your take on this. Pleasure,
Yeah,
pain, testing, purity, happiness.
yeah.
It would be
No,
wonderful.
yeah, it's like this. Uh, yes, Swami tests us, and then we know that pleasure is a is an interval between two pains, right? I understand that. But the but what Swami does is basically he also prepares us for facing those pains and get the pleasure out of it. As students, right? We know that life is not very simple because you're living with Swami, and with Swami, living with Swami is has got its own pleasures as well as got its own pains, right? All of it, as Sainath said. And then when he takes you under his fold, he basically takes the responsibility of making you progress in the path of in that path, right? So that is why he prepares you for that. And one of the things which I think Sainath or you highlighted is that Swami knows what he can expect from you and what he wants you to participate in. Like, take for example, in your case, Arvind, Swami would have wanted you to do a drama, or in the case of Sainath, Swami wanted him to give discourses or disseminate Swami's this thing. In the same way, Swami knows each of what he wants from each of us. So that's the first thing, and then he prepares you for that, right? So that's one more thing which I wanted. And as a student, this is something which all of us have been exposed to and have witnessed it and have seen this happening. So that's one thing which I wanted to highlight. And the other thing is that see, Swami knows in this whole process, right? In this whole process of this transformation and reformation, right? Uh, there is one thing which all of us should hold together in our hearts: the the trust that what Swami does is for our good, right? Because all of us should be aware of the fact that whatever Swami does is for our good. I mean, basically, when I say Swami, I know of no other God, so I always say Swami. Basically, whatever God does is for our good. So the trust that Swami is doing everything for our good, and he knows best, and he will guide me in this whole journey. reformation and transformation is very important for us, and that is what each of us would have been exposed to, right?
Bhai, please,
So
can I have an experience from you? I mean, I'm sure in these decades with the Lord, both being a student and his instrument in the world outside, you would definitely have seen this wonderful magic of Bhagawan, that what we may have perceived to be a shadow was actually protecting us from an extremely powerful sun. So, could you share a couple of instances from your life,
And
please?
also, and also Arvind, Hirok Bhai, also, I think I just want to put a point here to say that the statement that you made just now comes back to surrender.
yeah,
The goldsmith, the way Arvind said, and you talking about surrender. Now, that there's no other God but Swami is the first acceptance that, there is not multiple sources to go to when something doesn't go your way. You go to another source, right?
correct,
That's very common with all of us. We do it with doctors, we do it with anything in our lives. But you do share some experience from that perspective, because I do know that many of you with no acting talent or anything went up putting mega productions in the first years, Bhaja Govindam or a Sai Katha for that matter, where the architect was himself, he taught how to sing and all. Can you go that anecdotal road to show how he brought that happiness by making you feel to be something when he is the doer, just to give that flavor to the discussion.
Yeah. So I'll just talk of one thing which Swami, one is of course the Bhaja Govindam drama, which I'll talk later, maybe if time permits. But before that, I just wanted to say that, the fact that Swami knows what he can get out of you, he always gets the best out of you, right? Because that's how he and he does that with full love and positive reinforcement. So, like, take for example, I used to see. I came in the year 1976. I heard of Swami from 70s, from the 70s, early 70s, and then I came to Brindavan. Swami called me to Brindavan before, when I was doing my 10th standard, and then I came there to Brindavan, and then Swami said, "You please come and join the college." I actually did not have anything else at that point of time. When he said, "Come and join the college," that's it. I wrote my exams, and before the results were declared also, I came off. So that was the first, that's the first pleasure which Arvind talked of. So we came off, and then I came in after my 10th standard. So I was not exposed to any of these trainings and all those things. And then Swami, and I never went back after I joined the PUC. After I joined PUC, I never went back to Assam. I was always there. Even during holidays, I kept on staying with Swami. And so during that time, what Swami did was, there were not many singers around. So Swami asked me to sing, and it was a squeaky, not a very great voice, because that time my voice was just maturing. And then he saw me, but Swami used to say, you sing very your chala manchiga padedu and all the thing. And then as time progressed, right, Swami kept on encouraging. And remember one thing, I'm not a trained singer, but then Swami, because of his encouragement, he kept on prompting us. And then he started on the composition of Sai Katha. And the composition of Sai Katha was done by very, very famous directors. Arvind and Sainath might know. Adinarayan was one, Adinarayan Rao, and then we had Sai Ram, and they came and stayed in Vrindavan, and then used to compose the songs. And Swami used to reaffirm the incidents that were there, that had to go into the Sai Katha. And then Swami also, look at Swami. I mean, I just see the dispassion in Swami. Swami is talking about his life, and is reaffirming and telling them that write this incident and all these things, and then also telling them, see, Adinarendra is a very famous lyricist, but then Swami used to also tell them how to write these things and maybe give suggestions. And after that, this was supposed to be sung by P. Sushila and Ramakrishna. But then what Swami did was, I think you know Ramakrishna, right? He was also a very famous singer. What Swami did was, Swami said, no, let P. Sushila sing. Along with him, it will be the students who will sing. Imagine, we are not trained singers. We are nowhere compared to Sushila, but Swami said, no, this is you all will sing that. And what he did was, the next thing which he did was that he made us practice every single day is to come and hear the thing. Why did he do that? I was just wondering, why did he do that? He did that so that we could get the confidence in that songs and sing it, so that we get the self-satisfaction of singing that song as per what Swami wants us to sing. Right? So that's where our happiness lay, right? Our happiness lay in being able to match up to or come up to Swami's expectations, and then participate in that this thing. And see, so these were things which Swami actually got for Bhaja Govinda. None of us knew acting, but Swami said, no, you all will act. And of course, I also have another problem in terms of I can't see properly because of my eyes. And I used to wonder how I'll enact Shankaracharya as this thing. Act as Shankaracharya, because I can't see anybody if my specs is. But Swami, what he did was, he again came and started sitting down for practices throughout. And then is to tell us, see, how do I know how Shankaracharya would walk? How do I know how Shankaracharya should deliver his dialogue? How do I know that, see, if this is the dialogue that is to be delivered, this is the feeling, this is the emotion, this is what should be conveyed in those. I didn't know that. And it was Swami who taught us all this. There are various things. So like, take for example, the only thing which I wanted to emphasize was that as students, right, he got us in and he said, okay, come. And then he started the process of transforming us, bringing out what, how we could help in the mission that he has outlined for us. Because see, he knew that what we could be best on, and then giving us the chance to excel in what he wanted us to do, so that we get the happiness because Swami is happy. That's what I feel is nothing but happiness is union with God.
Fantastic, right? Bhai. Really, really, I mean, that was revealing, because I'm reminded of that footprints story when, people are walking, a man is walking along a beach and he sees two pairs of footprints. And then at a particular point in time, it's at the nadir of his life and he sees only one pair of footprints. And then once he crosses again, he sees two pairs of footprints, and then he turns to God and says, Dad, where were you? Oh, my divine Father, oh, Pops, where were you when I was going through such a horrible situation? And God sweetly says, Dear one, I understand you were going through that. You did not see me because I was carrying you, I was there with you throughout, and you won't know it. You won't know it, but I am there with you. But as students, as Iraq Bhai put it forward so beautifully, we are blessed to have him there. As Swami once told in an interview, Sakaram lenide Nirakaram ledura. Without Sakara, there is no Nirakara. And Swami so beautifully chiseled us. I mean, his physical presence gives us so much of self-confidence. And as you said, Bhai, most of us don't even know what we are capable of sometimes.
Yeah.
It is only when we come to Swami, when then that master alchemist, he switches on something and suddenly there is a outburst. For example, I never knew I could do thermocol art. So after coming to Swami, I suddenly realized I could do fantastic, carving and all that in thermocol. I was
Arvind,
never introduced.
just one thing.
By.
Yeah. So Swami, he used to come very often, train us, tell us this is how you should walk and all. But at the end of it, before we were about to present the drama, one thing which all of us did, all the students did was, Swami, mere ka padali.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Surrender. He's the Kartru, he's the Bhoktru. I clearly remember Swami said in the interview room, Chesedi nene, chainchedi nene, anubhavinchedi nene. Chance meekistunanu. I am the one who does it. I am the one who gets it done. I am the one who enjoys it, but I'm giving you the opportunity. So it's wonderful, but it's just that, just when you narrate these instances, the mind goes back to those million micro moments that we spent with Swami, but not just the physical form. We see his invisible divine fingers, as a divine puppet master, how he plays around with our lives, connecting the dots, making things happen the way they're supposed to happen, and making every single moment personal. Just, I would like, before we move on to the next.
And at the end of that,
Bye.
Swami will say, Pillalu chala baga chesaru.
Awesome.
Pillalu chala baga chesaru. I remember
classic.
when Swami when we went to Shanmukhananda Hall, right? At the end of the this thing, drama, Sathya Sai drama, Swami sent a letter to Nanjunda sir. Pillalu adbhutanga chesaru. Chala mandi. He was saying that everybody was very happy. See, everything was done by him.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But then again, he doesn't take credit for that.
He doesn't take credit.
Yeah.
He doesn't take credit. He just wants to make us happy because, as Swami said, "Ni anandame na aharam, ni vishadame na vinodam." So I had the audacity once, I still remember, I was a bit greenhorn and, I couldn't treat Swami as divinity, like the head of my family. I was greenhorn 92. And I had Sainath sir and Sanjay Sai sir and all my senior teachers telling me, Arvind, that's not the way you talk to Swami. That's not the way you talk to Swami. The love of Swami, which used to pour on all of us, was so one-to-one, so unique. I said, once Swami in a discourse, Swami said, "Mi anandame na aharam." And then he goes on and he says, "Me vishadame na vinodam." Of course, different context. You connect them together, a monkey mind. The next time I got a chance to sit in the interview room, after those prasadam distributions, we used to hide inside. And Swami used to come and say, "Em ikkadem chestunaru," and all that. So once I asked Swami, you said, "Me anandame na aharam." And then you say, "Me vishadame na vinodam." So Swami, if we have to keep you happy, we have to feel sad. We have to be in Vishada. And if we are in Vishada, where is Ananda? That means, are you eternally hungry, Swami? Can you imagine somebody asking Swami this question? And then Swami sweetly said exactly what Sainath sir said. Because I'm able to connect the dots on how beautiful Swami makes it. He looks at me and says, LKG Vadki PhD answer ivvalenu. I can't give a PhD answer to an LKG boy. So that is Swami, how loving, how kind. That is happiness. You get a chance to ask Swami even such banal questions, and he's so loving, so sweet, so kind. He said, "Bacha, tere ko abhi bhi bahut time hai. You still have a lot of time. Relax, you're an LKG, you need to evolve." But yes, that Vishada which Swami was talking about now, 20 years later, 28 years later, if we look back on that question in 1992, 7th October, I still remember the date. Immediately after Vijayadashmi, I asked them this question. Awesome. So now when we look back, we understand this Vishada and Vinoda are our perceptions of our reality, not his perceptions of our reality. So he's eternally in Ananda.
And to see, these are things which he wanted us to do, right? Basically part of the mission. But then, during all this, he never let up on our academics. He never let up on our disciplines, right? He always wanted us to be disciplined, right? So you understand, see, when Swami was doing this, right, take for
Yes.
example sports also, how see, one part of it is the extracurricular activities, but then never let up on the academics, never let up on the discipline, never let up on the sports, this thing. So basically the whole idea was to mold you completely, as you know. Yeah.
Sainath
So
sir, I
that
think you are the best person. I mean, you
yeah,
should tell us about this. How
sports.
Swami used sports to infuse happiness and
Yeah.
ensure that we are all enjoying his happiness through sports.
Just to one bit, sign that you please
Yes,
continue. I
Dada.
just
Dada, you
wanted to
tell.
say, yeah, see, the sports meet started in a very small way.
Hmm.
Today it's almost like a an
It's an
Asian
event.
standard, right?
It's a
Yeah,
mega event. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Sign that. I mean, yeah,
Sainath sir,
please
Yeah.
go ahead.
all yours.
Yeah, sports meet. Yes, in fact, I think I would love to share my view here because I participated in it as a student. Then I participated in it as a faculty member who was in charge of various things, and later on, even offered the commentary for the entire sports event for this thing. I was in the central coordination team for that, and I was also a sports person, incidentally. So I got opportunities to play in front of Bhagwan, exhibit these things, and most importantly, I was also there with Bhagwan, uh, watching the events from the stage, when he used to prepare so many things for distributing to the students. Uh, Throughout everything, Bhagwan always looked upon the sports meet as a single point platform for disseminating happiness, joy, and most importantly, letting us know how much he really cared for us. In the first instance, where those of us who are familiar with the kind of items that we put up in the sports meet, we also know that lots of danger is associated with it. I do remember my personal experience was carabining. Hirok sir and Arvind both will know carabining was something which we attempted twice before 2005. Twice.
Yes,
Both
yes,
the
yes.
times, once it was cancelled because of some disastrous accidents. Second time it was cancelled because even before we could display to Swami, we had some accidents. So in 2005, I remember Pallav was there. We had a meeting and he said, Sainath, I would like you to, uh, is it okay if you can take up carabining? I said, boss, two times we had done it in the past. It had disastrous consequences. Are you still planning to put up carabining? He said,
So,
no, this time we will plan it carefully because it has, and this time to make matters worse, carabining was being done from above the ladies' gallery earlier. This time we wanted to do it right from the Hanuman statue, from where the
wow.
flame is lit.
Yes, I remember that. I
You
remember
remember
that.
that, right?
Yes.
And so he said, nice, Aina, this time we'll plan it very carefully. I said, we'll have to take Swami's permission. Twice in the past, everyone knows what has happened. Even the registrar and vice chancellor were very this thing. So then I didn't know what to do. Palla wanted me to take it up. He said, "Nay, I know you can do a good job, Sainath. If you must take it up, we should do it." For some reason, both of us felt that we should do it. So finally, I prayed to Swami. Next day, I said, "Let us go ahead. Whatever has to happen, he will take care of it." And we were doing it from such a great height. So the news was conveyed to the vice chancellor and registrar. They told Swami, and the first question Swami asked, now this is where Brother Hirok was saying just now, he does everything, but he gives you the responsibility of being the instrument. I'm a very strong believer in Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Pardo Dhanurdaraha, that statement, Tatra se Vijaya Vibhuti Dhruva Nitirmatir Mama. Where there is the Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, the Yogeshwara Lord Krishna himself is there, Yatra Pardo Dhanurdaraha, where Partha is there with the Gandiva. There Vibhuti, goodness, auspiciousness, victory is always assured. Two people are required. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna alone will not achieve anything. Yatra Partho Dharudhara will not achieve anything. When they combine together, it will happen. So I actually had Arvind was saying a few minutes back, we do have some very funny questions being asked to Bhagwan from the student side, but that was a beauty. He would never really take objection. Some outright funny and sometimes very preposterous questions used to be asked, and I asked one of them now. I said, Swami, you said Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Pato Dhanurdhara. That means If I am going to put in my individual effort, isn't it that I am going to use my own brains and my own intelligence? Then isn't that I am blocking Bhagwan's grace from coming to me? Because Bhagwan is very clear about the concept of free will.
Correct.
You want to do it, you're welcome to do it. You'll learn it the hard way.
Right. That's true.
I asked Bhagwan that, I asked him, Swami, isn't it going to happen this way? And then Swami made a fantastic statement. He said, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, you forget him. Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha. Who is Partha? Partha is a humble devotee of the Lord. When he takes up an instrument to do any work, he looks forward and tries to recognize the invisible hand of God.
That is the key. That is the key.
He doesn't do it out of his ego. He doesn't bank on his intelligence and his strength out of ego. He banks on them as an instrument awaiting the invisible hand of God to guide him. So with that kind of attitude, if you take up any activity, God's grace pours on you abundantly. So coming back to this incident, Swami asked the first question to the Vice Chancellor, who is the faculty in charge? They said, Swami Sainath is doing it. And for whatever reasons, I was woefully out of form at that point of time. Arvind and Hirok sir will know, it was just too close to 2003. So then they said, Sainath Swami. And Swami thought for some time, Baga chestad cheyandi. When Lakshmi Narasimhan sir was the registrar, he came back and told me, it was like as if, I was blessed with the power of 1,000 elephants. What a confidence, that Bhagawan tells 2 disasters happened in 2 previous occasions. And now Swami is telling, if Sainath is taking care, he'll do a good job, you let him take care. And trust me, the resources that came along. We had a martial arts expert, we had a police commando trainer, and we planned everything so beautifully. If you were to see the sports meet CD of 2005, you will discover it was a massive, massive hit. The Carabine. Everything went flawlessly. Even Arvind also.
I was there. I was part of the band. I was in the band at that time.
Yeah. Yes. Arvind Balasubramanya was also in the team. He's there in Radio Sai. You can ask him. Because his particular item was about to actually turn into a disaster. Some quick thinking, saved it and made it into a big hit.
Wow.
And I have photographs of Swami keenly watching it, as people were coming down. Not once did she tell that fellow to be careful, because I was 24/7 before anything began. I was very clear, we pray to Bhagawan. Our individual effort with our instance, but yes, Bhagawan, you are going to guide us. There was not a single disaster. Even during the practice sessions, no one even cut their finger, let alone landing up with broken bones. So this is one instance I remember with Bhagawan in all these experienced sports meet when you say. Then I remember, everyone here knows that Bhagawan is not a big fan of...
Yeah. And Sainath, that is happiness. Because that is happiness, and that is what is union with God, right? Because he wanted you to do that, and then you were able to do it as per his expectations. And that's what was giving happiness to everybody. So it's basically happiness, it's union with God at that instant itself, right? Go ahead.
Go back to what you said, Hirok Bhai. You had said that the instrument, the patra, the heart needs to be ready to receive. And that is when the ambrosia will come in. So, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara. Partha was ready to receive. Krishna was always giving. But the moment Partha received it, Shri, Vijaya, Vibhutir, Dhruva, Nitir, Matir Mama. Everything just follows. See, that is the beauty of Bhagavan. That is where I think, Swami always used to say in the 2005 Guru Purnima discourse also, Swami said, don't have photographs of me, hundreds of photographs of me, not required. Okka photo unchukondi. Keep one photo. That is outside. Nannu mi hrudayamlo pettukondi. Keep me inside your heart. I will be there with you. So throughout this process of refinement, throughout this pleasure and pain, throughout this Partha Saradi discussions which Swami would put us throughout the Gana Gandharva which Hirok Bhai was in Swami's Asthan, I always call you guys as Gana Gandharvas because you are able to reach God, and through His grace flowing through you, millions of people are enjoying music because God is Bhava Priya. And as some great poet said, Sangeeta mein amara sallapa mein, music is the language of the gods. So Through music, so much of happiness. Through bhajan, so much of happiness. As Sainath sir said, through seva. When even sports meet is a seva. Come on, it's not something different. You really have to go manasa vacha karmana into it, and you put the manasa vacha karmana aside and then say, Swami, now I've done my bit, you do yours. That's why Swami says.
Ramaseva Arvind, if I can actually share one fantastic.
Yes,
Yes.
Ramaseva, you should talk. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely.
Because I was there in the central.
One request, sir. Finish that Carabine incident just briefly, and then
Okay, so sorry.
Carabining
So
is over.
sorry.
There's nothing more to
like
add.
giving a story with a flavor and say you go and research the end. So let's.
Carabining is over, sir. Like what I remember is, that event, which frankly speaking, we were so scared because, the kind of injuries which the students suffered in the previous batches were not normal. There was a broken spine, there was a shattered leg bone, all kind of crazy stuff used to happen, and every one of us were scared, At this time, if we fell, it is not bones alone that's going to break for sure. Something more serious would happen. So we were quite sure about that. So, but Swami was there. I have photographs of him when the practice sessions were going on, the way he was keenly watching, people coming down like that. And then when they safely land, the relief on his face as he clapped like that. And on the stage when he was seeing, when caravanning was going on, he would look like that. And then, he would want to look at the expressions of the elders around him. And my boys, like that.
My boys, correct.
Mother, panicking. My God, they're so high, will somebody do something like that? But that's all I put up act, because at every step we felt his hand supporting us. For some reason we understood, that nothing is going to happen.
And also,
and executed it
when he looks at others also, he's very proud.
Yeah. Yes. And he actually blessed the caravanning boys a lot, and he spoke about it a lot also to the elders inside. And he was telling, how they practiced, how they worked for it, and all that. Yeah. And this is what I wanted to tell was because this particular incident, sports meet with Bhagawan was always, Gramasev also for that matter, was always a platform where we experienced his love, number one. We experienced his unseen hand in driving us out of trouble many times, number two. And most importantly, we also had lessons to learn from this. Bhagawan was very particular. In fact, I remember once, a very strange incident which happened. Swami used to have PC sessions. Arvind, were you there at that time? PC sessions.
I was fortunate. Yes, I was there. Yes.
I don't know whether you particularly experienced this particular incident. One day, all of a sudden, the stage rotated.
Yes, I was there.
You didn't know what happened, right?
I don't know the behind story, but we enjoyed it.
I will tell you the story.
Yes.
There is a door in the middle of the stage. Have you seen that, right?
Yes.
That is a pressure pad operated door. So when Bhagawan used to come and stand behind, the pressure sensor used to work and the door used to open. Swami used to be very thrilled like a small child, whenever he used to see that door. So this day what he said, all the boys, have they come? I said, yes, Swami, they're all sitting there. He said, I don't want to go from behind the curtain. You do one thing, you put on the switch for the pressure door. I'll surprise them from going to the door.
So sweet.
The problem was, I had newly come to Purchandra. I was not very familiar with the switches.
Okay.
So I went and Mr. Shauri was there. He was familiar with the switches. So he was taking some time to understand while Swami was in a hurry. So I quickly went there and there was a switch with D written on top of it.
Okay.
I thought D is door. What I didn't know was D stood for dais. That was the language of the people who were manning this thing. The Venkatramana said and KBR Prasad said, D for them meant dais. For me, I thought it is door. And I looked at Mr. Shauri and said, is this the one? And for some strange reason, he said, nodded. I put on that button. And to my horror, the entire stage started rotating with a jerk. Swami was standing at the edge of the stage. He fell down. He lost his balance and he fell down. 3 students, who were standing close to him, they rushed and they caught him. And, he just gave me a strange look like that and he went away. I was mortified. Dilip came out and I told him, I'm running away from the shutters. Tell Swami I have run away. I'm not going to come back again.
I clearly remember this because on that particular day, all the teachers were like, oh my God, in firefighting mode. Because all the boys was, oh my God, what is going on? What happened kind of thing. But I still remember. Now, when I look back, I can laugh at it, at what Swami's play was with you. But on
No,
that day, wow, it was pure horror. I can
exactly.
understand that.
It was horror, but the truth is, let me tell you, Swami never told anyone that I was a culprit. He never told anyone. I'll tell you why. So when I told Dilip, I was mortified. I told him, I'm running away from the shutters. You send my luggage later. Tell that I'm not coming back. Please, if Swami asked that. He said, don't be crazy. Just stay here. And then I went inside. And after 5 minutes, he came back rolling with laughter. Dilip. He was laughing with his hand like this, like this. He was shaking his head. So I said, what are you
Really?
laughing for? Dilip. I
Dilip,
said, what are
okay.
you? Yeah, he came out laughing. I was behind the stage. I said, what are you laughing for? Is this a laughing matter or what? He said, you go inside. Swami is calling you. I said, boss, no way. Tell him I've run away. I'm not going to come back. I can't face him. Then Swami, then comes a crack. Swami said, tell him not to do anything stupid. I will not do anything to him. Tell him to come back.
My God, my God.
I went and Swami was inside. I went and fell at his feet. I said, Swami, you must, I apologize to you. I'm sorry, Swami. And he said, why are you sorry? You didn't do it deliberately. I said, no, Swami, but you fell down. I can never forgive myself for that. You fell down. Then Swami said, no, I didn't fall down. Then he said, do you think anything in this world can harm me if I choose not to let it? Any amount of switches you put, nothing will happen to me. Nothing happened to me. See, I'm fine, he said. Touch me, he said. He said, nothing is wrong with me. Then I that too much of kindness for me, I broke down and I sobbed bitterly. And then Swami said, this is a statement of what I wanted to tell you about sports meet, learning. I said, learning lessons. That's one thing Swami expected us. Then he told me this. See, when you do not know something, there's no harm in taking a step back and admitting you don't know it, learn from life, admit your mistake, and then move forward. తప్పు
Fantastic.
ఒప్పుకోవడంలో ఎటువంటి సమస్య ఉండకూడదు. Accepting a mistake and learning from it should not give you any kind of a feeling of shame. Admit it. అది
Correct, sir.
మీకు చాలా మంచిది. ముందు తప్పులోంచి నేర్చుకోండి. తప్పు చెయ్యవచ్చు, తప్పు లేదు. There's no harm in doing a mistake. But if you do not learn the lesson from it, Bhagawan said, that is when the problem comes. Trust me, that afternoon the Central Trust members came and they sat, that evening, I'm sorry, this happened in the afternoon, birthday celebrations time. So Swami was there with Center Trust members and they asked Swami, Swami, we heard that one of your students did something and the whole stage rotated and you fell down. It seems you fell down because of some mistake which your students made. Swami saw me from the corner of the eye for a split second and you know what he told them? He stood up for me. Where am I and where is he? He stood up for me. And he said,
Swami.
పిల్లల్ని ఏమీ
Sai
అనవద్దు,
Ram. Awesome.
వాళ్ళకి ఏమీ తెలియదు. నా ధోతి మీద పడి నేనే కింద పడ్డాను. I tripped over my dhoti and I only fell. Don't tell my boys anything. They know nothing.
अपना मान भले टल जाए भक्त का मान न टलने देता.
No,
Hirok
that
bhai,
was a level of kindness he
Yeah.
would shower on
Hirok
us.
bhai, can you just sing this song, please,
And
if you don't mind?
this is what, because of प्रबल प्रेम से पाले पढ़कर प्रभु को नियम बदलते देखा.
बदलने वाला.
Yeah, see, because of the intense love that God has for his devotees, he changes his rules, right? So I don't know the full song, but I'll sing. प्रबल प्रेम के पाले पढ़कर प्रबल प्रेम के पाले पढ़कर प्रभु को नियम बदलते देखा. प्रभु को नियम बदलते देखा. अपना मान टले टल जाए पर अपना मान टले टल जाए पर भक्त का मान न टलते देखा. भक्त का मान न टलते देखा. See, that, this is the last line says, Bhakt ka man, apna man, apna, if his reputation or if his man goes away, he doesn't bother. But if he will not, he will see to it that his devotees' respect, reputation does not go. See, this is what Swami was. And this is, why does he do that? Is just because he's happy with what you are doing for him. It's basically if you follow his this thing, right? If you follow his commands, right? Sainath was following Swami's command. He wanted to go through the door, and he did that. Yes, there was a mistake, but he never took him to task for that mistake of his. But said took that mistake on himself and said that no, this is what
Two
is right.
things, sir. If I may add here, it is not just, what he would look at is always the intention. Sir, I think every student
Yeah.
will realize this. It's intention. He always bothered about the intention. As
Correct.
long as he saw sincerity and, a kind of innocence in what we were doing, I would never see him, try to take us to task or scold us or whatever it is. He would always guard and protect us, like a bhakta, Bhagawan would do for a bhakta or a mother would do for a child.
Yeah.
I would like to add here.
At this point, Arvind, I want one, brother Arvind, I want one such experience, because I'm sure the chapter that you have written on the drama thing, I'm sure you would have had lots of interesting anecdotes. So take one where your perception of how you would want to do versus his perception, but then he will have a way of telling you without hurting you.
Oh my God, that is yes. I wanted to say that, like when we put up a drama in front of Swami, the first rule that we are always taught is there is only one audience, and that is Swami. If Swami smiles, the whole Kulwanthal will smile. If Swami frowns, whole Kulwanthal will frown. If Swami looks this way, whole Kulwanthal will look that way. And how many of us have had that experience? We would be standing next to Swami giving a talk, realizing that the entire audience is looking only at Swami and not at us at all. See, end of the day, he is the one, we are the zeros. And agreed, like I would like to touch upon this. Just an experience, though the topic is happiness is union with God, that whole journey of happiness has got so many different steps which we keep climbing, and sometimes we slip down and we get into the psychology that, okay, we know what we are doing. And then Swami pops the balloons and says, Bacha, learn. This is what I want you to learn. So yes, this is what he did to me. On that day, I think it was the 1999 convocation drama. Yes, it was a 1999 convocation drama. There was a historical scene wherein you had the Pandavas, and both in the Rajasuya Yajna scene as well as the Vanavasa scene. In the Rajasuya Yajna scene, it was all splendor. Oh my God, what details Swami went into. I think Sainath sir was there in PC at that time. He knows the degree of detail Swami went into for all the, the ornamentation, the costume, jewelry, everything. Exact contrast was the Vanavasa scene. And Swami particularly selected even the costume color to suit the mood of the act of that particular character. Bhima was wearing red. It was a wall of fire and all that. And Nakula and Sahadeva were wearing pale blue and a singlets and stuff like, oh my God, Swami went into degrees of detail. We used to have, I know it sounds very simple to say, but we had practice sessions inside Trai Vrindavan during winter holidays. I mean, really, I cannot stop thanking Swami for this blessing. Inside Trai Vrindavan, Julha room, morning darshan is over. Everybody is like, if I have one glimpse of Swami, it is enough. Here we are sitting inside the Julha room, Swami sitting on the Julha, Chakravarti, and we are practicing. And first of all, we think a million times to even stand in front of Swami, but that is when, when we are not supposed to, there's a decorum, right? And Swami is sitting on the Julha, we always sit down. We never sit on a chair unless, you're a VIP or Swami gives you that permission. Swami said, use all those chairs. I want all the Pandavas to sit on chairs. You can imagine on what tenterhooks we are to do that. But still, yes, the scene went on. And when we came to the Vanavasa scene, In that scene, Bhima is very upset with Yudhishthira, and I had mentally rehearsed this role. So I read Kamala Subramaniam's Mahabharatam, thoroughly analyzed the scene. We were taught to visualize. Swami himself had taught us, because this is in 99, the last year of my academics with Swami, and in between Swami had given a lot of inputs. So I had visualized it, I was characterizing it, I was putting it forth. And then in the middle of that padyam, wherein I am literally shouting at my brother saying, Vanabhumula Nundakanela. Suddenly I hear the word Bhimasena. It was like stentorian voice of Swami. Immediately all practice stops. Bhimasena vaporizes and one small cockroach called Arvind is there. You are trying to hide somewhere. When you see Swami in that mood. Pin drop silence in Traya Vrindavan. Swami is looking at me and he says, Nuvu kopam chupinchavaddu. Raudram chupinchu. I dropped on my knees. I said, Swami, Rentiki Vyatyasamemi Swami. Swami said, don't show anger, show wrath. The nuances of course, we have studied Natya Shastra, but we may not have gone into that degree of detail as to what are the rasas, but he is Raso Vaisaha. So Swami said, I asked Swami, Rentiki Vyatyasamemi Swami. You should see Swami. I just cannot forget this image. Every time I narrate this incident, I describe Bhagawan. He leans back into the julha. He puts one foot on that footstool. His left hand is resting on that bolster next to him. Like the emperor, he makes an edict, where he raises his hand. Swami raises his hand and says, Satyamunu, Asatyamu, Dharmamunu, Adharmamu, Atikraminchinapudu, Ni Hridayamulo Avirbhavinchu Bhavamu, Raudramu. నీ అహంకారానికి దెబ్బ తగిలినప్పుడు నీ మనస్సులో ఆవిర్భవించు భావము కోపము. Oh my God. This could be written in, like Silasasana, as they say, you can type it in words of stone, you can, for eternity. Yeah.
Word by word translation. Very powerful statement. Very, very powerful statement.
Very powerful statement by Bhagavan. Satyamunu asatyamu, when truth is overcome by untruth. Dharmamunu adharmamu, when dharma is overcome by adharma. Ni hridayamulo avirbhavinchu bhavamu raudramu. The bhava, the feeling, the emotion that arises in your heart is raudra, it is wrath. Ni ahankaraniki dabba tagilinappudu, when your ego is hurt, ni manassulo avirbhavinchu bhavamu, the feeling that arises in your mind is kopam, is anger. In one shot, Swami gave a complete definition of fundamental discrimination, individual discrimination. You are not allowed to be angry. My dear son, don't get angry, because when you're getting angry, it is your ego and your mind that are working. Wow, what a teaching, not just for Bhimasena in the drama, but for life. So, what management? I'm telling you, don't react, respond. See, when you react, you're using ego. When you respond, you're using your heart. See how beautifully Swami, just 2 sentences, and that is etched in my mind, not just because the people say through audio visual training, the training gets into the mind better. The way Swami said it on that day, I'm telling you, all 7 of us who were there, Krishna, myself, senior brothers were there, 2-3 people were there. Oh my God, in a class of its own. So you see, however much we may feel that we are in sync with Swami, Swami has a lesson to teach. He has a message to convey. The great Einstein said the best can be bettered. And Swami is the one who shows us how to better the best. See, it is why, what, where, when, who is very nice. The how, that is where the Sadguru comes. Ajnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. With Swami, the happiness, that union that we had with Swami, that union, that one-to-one touch. Even Bhima, you tell the dialogue like this, Dharmaja. Beautiful. If I can extend this to Dharmaja. Dharmaraja was sitting a very tall guy. Among all the tall people, I was the second shortest. I was supposed to be Bhima. I was the widest. That's a different ball game. But the beauty was, Swami looks at Dharmaja. Dharmaraja ante emo telsa. Do you know what Dharmaraja means? No, sir. What is your name, Swami? Yudhishthira. Yes, Swami. What is Yudhishthira? Yuddhamanandu Sthiramuganundadivadu. The one who is undisturbed, who is steady in battle. Your face should not change. Swami used to say, Ni mukamlo chalanam undakudadu. You are undisturbed, you are unperturbed. And then the punchline, Nannu chudu, see me. What can one say, brother? What can one say, brothers and sisters? I'm telling you with Swami, how beautiful he is. He comes down with that Saundaryam, that Lalityam with Swami. Just looking at Swami, you feel tears rolling down. Somebody said that video, Pure Love is called moving meditation. Fantastic. It is moving meditation. Nobody can watch that video without having a tear in his eyes. That's my personal perspective. Pardon me if I'm being, too exaggerated, but with Swami, how personal. And through that personal thing, Swami would ensure that each and every one of us are perfected. Nakula, Sahadeva, Krishna, Yudhishthira, Dharmaja, Arjuna, like that. Sainath, Arvind, Hirak, Venkat, everybody, each and every one of us are being in tune with Bhagawan. And that tuning, the joy that arises is happiness. That is why I say happiness is union with God. You give up. You say, okay, Swami, whatever you say, whatever you say, I will do. Whatever you say, we will do, Swami. Karishya Vachanam Tava, done better. I am yours, come. I'll take you forward. That's it, Swami. I still remember in one drama, Swami clearly told. They said Karishya Vachanam Tava was the name of the drama. Then Swami said, you have to change the name of the drama. I said, Swami, what? I was not the decision maker, obviously. Swami was a decision maker and our teachers were coordinating it. Swami says, it should be Karishya Vachanam Mama. I will do what I say. Oh my God, this was during my student days. And to add to this, that's why I said, if I jump 12 years into the future, when we were in the hospital, when we were working in the hospital, Swami told the doctors, never promise what you cannot deliver. Always deliver whatever you promise. So when you see Karishya Vachanam Tava is when we surrender. Karishya Vachanam Mama is when we know that Swami is working through us. And when you come into the professional environment, never promise what you cannot deliver. Always deliver whatever you promise. Karishya Vachanam Mama. You see what he did in the drama, Swami gave us a chance to do in our real life also. So that union, traveling with God, that I feel is the happiness. There are so many more in the drama, but I think we should move on.
I just want to put an emphasis on two very important points that you have said, which I think will form a very big part of the how discussion if we move towards that, considering we probably have another 45 minutes to go. One is surrendering ego. That's a very big thing. All of us, it pops up suddenly without us knowing, and then we realize, oops, we've got something to fix. Second is the earlier point you were mentioning about the fine-tuning that you are ready to undergo in that process. Ego and of course desires as well, right? Expectations of what you think you want to do versus what he wants to do. I think these two parameters, if you can also expand on from your student perspective and later on as you're in your working days, as you call it. And finally, let's move to how we should look at happiness now, because we were all talking about happiness by being in the light shining on us, and automatically everything is lit, right? Now, where is the light going to come from? Which you were talking about internalization. I hope we can also touch on that towards the end. So I'm going to leave you all to discuss this, but I thought we'll just lead towards there.
I'll just add one thought. I'll set off the thought because I felt it was pertinent. See, like I always keep sharing with people, this is a universal experience, so I'm just going to generalize it. And I know generalizations are usually wrong, so it's a paradox and all that, but let's not get into semantics here. What I would like to say here is, each of us has our own relationship with Swami. And the moment we begin to accept that this is the definition, the planetary, there's something called as the orbit concept with Bhagawan. Each and every electron which has got a particular energy, SN1 to all the way up to SN, whatever the different series are, Sainath sir would be able to best explain the example. Each of the electrons will be rotating around or revolving around the nucleus at their own particular energy levels. Some are close, some are far, but they're all orbiting around the same nucleus. Correct? So the moment you accept that, okay, this is where I am, this is where, whether you're the third rock from the sun or the ninth rock from the sun, it is the decision of the sun's gravitational force and your ability to stay at that distance. See, you can always change it. That's what sadhana is all about. You go closer and closer and closer to God and you become God. That is what it's called, Samipyam, Sarupyam, Salokyam, Sayujyam. That's fine. But in reality, how do we do it? So before I get deeper into this, just one thought. What we expect and what Swami expects. As students, we always want to do the best for Swami. We feel that, okay, if we do it this way, Swami will. Because it's not practically possible for us to say, Swami, would you like this? Swami, would you like that? In the physical form, Swami has limited himself to the 5'3" form. And probably my bhakti was not at the level or of the Gopikas where he would multiply himself for each and every one of us. That's a different ballgame. As the Antaryami probably is doing it. So yes, sometimes we think that if we do it like this, Swami will like it. Like the Bhimasena example that I can give. And in the professional life, we get so good at our own jobs that sometimes we forget, though we feel that we know that Swami is doing, that Swami is doing becomes more of a, how shall I say, repetitive phrase rather than a feeling. And when that feeling goes off, right, Swami brings you down to reality by putting you into that position, saying, Beta, do not forget the reality. I am the doer, you are zero. This happened with me when I was in the hospital. I've shared this earlier. I wouldn't want to spoil the mood right now with that. But the lesson learned was, whatever you may achieve in your material world, whatever praises you may get in the material world, everything becomes zero if you forget who is the one. And Swami is so loving, so kind. He's always with us. He does not allow us to go down that path even by 1 millimeter. He'll pull us back. When he pulls us back, that is when we feel the pain. Are we able to connect the dots now? We feel that we are going along a journey. We are happy, we are happy, we are happy. And sometimes subconsciously somewhere, that happiness is sort of taking us away from the path. We are lost in the happiness and forgetting about who is giving us that happiness. He gives a jhalak saying, Beta, come back. See, don't forget the creator. Creator is there. Don't go behind the creation. There are so many examples in Kodaikanal. We don't have to go into that. Swami materializes a diamond. Everybody hoo-ha-ha about this, photograph. And Swami says, Chudamdra. అందరూ డైమండ్ లోకి పోయినారు మాస్టర్ ని మర్చిపోయి క్రియేటర్ ని క్రియేషన్ ని చూస్తున్నారు మీరు స్వామి స్వీట్లీ brings us back like Yashoda and Krishna and all of us. So likewise, I request Sainath sir and Hirok bhai to just share your thoughts. Then we will move into the how concept of this happiness is union with God. Thank you, bhai.
Hirok sir, you would like to start?
No, you start.
Okay. I would just like to basically continue with as a one important aspect I was talking about is Arvind was talking about many times even in a profession or as students or anywhere we think that we are doing, forgetting that somebody else is actually responsible for this. That's why I don't really want to philosophize the whole thing, quoting many scriptures and all those things, except put it very, very simply. Is this what Swami once told me when I asked him this question, which I would like to reiterate before I share a very hilarious incident which happened inside. Where, when I asked Swami, when we actually put in our intelligence and our efforts, isn't there a danger of us feeling egotistic that we are doing? Do we become qualified to receive God's grace when we are putting in our sincere efforts and our intelligence into the work? Then Bhagawan made this statement. He said, see, when you are actually putting in your intelligence and sincerity to the work, you are also open to seeing the unseen hand of Bhagawan. That is the complete intelligence. That is the complete effort. So if it is your ego that is driving this intelligence and effort, you will never see the divine hand of God. In that case, God leaves you to suffer the consequences. But if it is your strength and your divinity and your contact with God within that is driving this in effort and intelligence, then you will recognize the hand of God. In fact, you will expect it to come to your help, and God will come to your help. That is when Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Partho Dhanadhara happens. So in our experience, I'm sure that my other brothers will have their own experiences to share, is when we actually put in this kind of a sincere effort with the sole intention of making sure that how would Bhagwan visualize this incident? As students and as faculty, that was all we thought of. When I planned the situation, what would Bhagwan say about this? When I taught a lesson, If Bhagwan is sitting in the class, how would he feel with my class today, with my preparation today? If I'm going to prepare a bhajan or a drama, how will Bhagwan react to this? Is it as per what Bhagwan expectations? So our end point was not earning a medal. Our end goal was not getting praises from people. Our end goal was only one purpose: is Bhagwan going to be happy with this? And Bhagwan always looked at that effort. Yes, the effort may end in a failure. Yes, we may consequences suffer some damages in the process, but as long as the effort was good, Bhagwan always said, my boys have done the right thing. So to that extent, when we used to operate that way, guidance was always available. Sometimes it was our short-sightedness that we could not see those guidance points, but we could not recognize those warning signs from Bhagwan. And yeah, sometimes it had some very hilarious consequence, one of which I would like to share. Uh, which is apt. I mean, you must have heard it in the past. I call it the electrifying incident, the chandelier incident. It's a very famous one. Okay.
Definitely,
So,
sir. Definitely. Yes.
never tired of repeating it. I don't know whether people are tired of listening to it, but how many times, he warns you. So, when the super specialty hospital was coming up in Puttaparthi, and there are lots of chandeliers there, and they used to arrive from different parts, mostly from Italy. And Swami used to make us unpack each and every box and see the chandelier for himself before deciding, okay, this chandelier, you put it here, this chandelier, you put it there, like that. So one day a small box arrived where Mr. Narayan said, it's a chandelier. So but it was 7 o'clock in the evening. That was time Bhagwan used to retire to his rooms. So, and we had, Dilip and I had devised a very nice way, ingenious, innovative way of arranging the chandeliers. Swami would say, first put on the chandelier, assemble it, and then put the switch on so that then he can decide where it has to go. So we had two bamboo poles, with another pole in the center through which, we could raise the height wherever we wanted, depending on the size of the chandelier. And then we used to put the stem and we used to start building the chandelier. So it used to take some time. Then the chandelier box came to Dilip and I thought, what do we do with this? Now, if I start assembling the chandelier, now it is already 7 o'clock, Bhagwan will get delayed. So I had a brainwave. I said, see, we'll just put it aside. It's a chandelier. Tomorrow morning when Swami comes, we'll assemble it and show him. So before Swami could realize, we whisked it out of sight and put it behind the curtain, but Swami's eyes are very sharp. He immediately caught and he said, what is that? Then both of us looked at each other and I went inside, what is that? He said. Then I tell Swami, something has come. Chandelier, he asked very lovingly. I said, yes, Swami. Then why don't you assemble it? Then I just looked at the clock and I looked at Swami. We don't talk much in front of Swami there. It's always dangerous talking long. So I just glanced at the clock and looked at Swami. Oh, Swami ki time aipotundana. So, okay, you're wondering the Swami's time will get over. That's why you're not assembling it. I said, yes, Swami. And Swami said, I'll wait for another 20 minutes. You finish it. So 20 minutes how to assemble this event. I told Dilip, come, Swami is expecting it to be assembled. Then I got a brainwave. I said, see, we'll do one thing. Why assemble the bamboo poles and all that? I will hold the central chandelier rod in my hand. It's a small chandelier. You build it around that. Then Dilip said, fantastic idea. It will save us at least half an hour easily. So I held the chandelier and pat, he started assembling it. Everything was ready. And while the work was being done, Swami came out to ask, so Dilip was still building, I was still holding. And I said, Swami, another 15 minutes we'll be done. Manchidi, he said, and as I was about to go, he turned back and he said, why are you holding it like this? I said, Swami, it's a small chandelier, no need to bring, it will take time, so I'm holding it. The pole kesi kadte manchidemo, he said. Means it is better, if you put it against the pole and assemble it. I said, Swami, it's a small chandelier. Chinnade Swami. Sare ni ishtam, he said, and he went off. Okay, your wish, he said, and he went off. I should have got the warning sign. Then after 5 minutes, he came again. The work was still going on. Again, Swami said, karraki katti cheste manchidemo, he said. Maybe it is better you tie it to the pole and assemble it. Again, I missed the point. Now, I remember that the late Radhakrishna sir used to tell, that Bhagawan, staying with Bhagawan is like fire. You go too far, you won't get anything. You come too close, you're burnt. So your entire sadhana goes, in finding out what's the right orbit. So I was wondering, again, I didn't get the point. So again, Swami said, Sare Nishtam, he said, and he went away. So third time when he came, it was ready. I was holding it proudly in my hand. Everything was assembled. Swami looked at it. Antha ready, yeah? All of us said, yes, Swami, everything is ready. So Swami said, switch it. So we put on the switch and the chandelier lit up and I started dancing. Like this, like this, like this, I started dancing. Chiranjeev Ragaru was there, he was watching what's wrong with this fellow. Dilip was looking at me, this fellow was fine till now, what has happened? Swami was the only one who understood what's happening. And his reaction was perplexing. He held his sides and he collapsed on a chair, laughing. He held his sides and he was pointing at me and he was holding his like this and he collapsed in the chair, laughing. My life was going, but because he knew to the pinpoint accuracy till what extent he can prolong the drama to. So he held his stomach and he collapsed laughing and he was pointing at me. And then he started saying, switch you, switch you, switch you. He started telling me between his laughter. Tears were flowing out his eyes. He was laughing so much at my expense. So then Dilip understood what happened. He switched off the light switch. And, I handed the chandelier to him, managed to save it. And dham, I collapsed. And then Swami came up to me walking like this and said, next time, next time when I tell you something, if you listen, it is going to be good for you only. So this is the catch what I was trying to tell you. Individual effort, yes, we were the ones who unpacked the box. We were the ones who held the chandelier. We were the ones who assembled it. Not some divine magic didn't do it, but the divine support was still there. He was warning us that something is going to go wrong. In our life, I always believed, even now in my professional life, this guidance comes from Bhagawan from various angles. If we have that union with God all the time, we will learn to recognize these signs. That is what is the point I was trying to tell you. There was a point which was mentioned earlier that in these days, where is this guidance going to come from? I'm sure that's going to be a separate topic of discussion. We'll talk about that later. I do have something very, very important to say about it because I experience it even now. I do miss Bhagwan a lot. I do miss his physical presence a lot, like most of us do. But I've also learned how to read the signs and how to understand his presence from various quarters. So that I will go to later. So therefore, this is my feeling and this is my experience. Like we need to recognize that when our effort is devoid of any egoistic or selfish considerations, the divine support is always there and it will always be available to us. All we need to do is recognize it.
Hirok Bhai, over to you. Hirok Bhai, your mic is muted, I think.
Yeah, no, the fact that Swami used to see, one of the things which I noticed from what both of you talked about is the fact that Swami wanted us to not only work hard but also work smart, right? That's the first thing. That's one thing. And I this has been my experience in all the various music programs or the dramas or this thing which we had. We used to wonder, why is it that Swami is calling us very often and then hearing the same thing over and over again? Why was it necessary? This was necessary. Like, take for example, I'll tell you. Take for example. Suppose I'm going to sing a song. Okay. When I'm singing a song for a concert, right? Swami will hear that song at least 100 times before the final concert. You know why that used to happen? One of the things which I'm also going to sing every single day when I sing this in front of Swami to the best of my ability. But still Swami will say, Chudu, it's not this you can sing this way or you can sing that way. That is something which he will tell. But in the process of singing it repeatedly, what used to happen is that he used to internalize that song. I'll tell you this happened during the 60th birthday. Okay. Swami asked me to sing one song. I mean, Swami didn't ask me. I was thinking of singing a song known as Taratiyara. I don't know whether you all know it. So Taratiyara Tirupati Deva. That was the song which is a very famous song. And Swami heard. And then Swami also decided on the sequence of the songs which would be there for the 60th birthday. And as we kept on practicing, right, Swami used to come very often to the practices and hear the songs. And he heard this song Tera Tierra so many times. You know, and then what happened was, I think as a lot of us have experienced it, this is something which we never could comprehend. You know, we could never understand the lesson that was there in that practice, the lessons that were there of our repeating this thing. So we become a little bit nonchalant or become a little bit careless. And Swami heard this song, used to hear this song very often, and then that sort of carelessness and nonchalance came in. And I used to, that was one part. And then I could immediately feel Swami's reaction to this nonchalance and carelessness. He started giving me the treatment. And once that treatment started, right, the whole purpose of the repetition of that song, the process of internalization of that song was completely lost. And then, because I could not internalize that song, that happiness which would emanate off of my good presentation of that song was completely lost. And you know one thing, this was happening to me, but then Swami was just watching. And then what happened was, one of the days when during the practice sessions, Anjali Devi came in, and then I sang that song. So Anjali Devi had a different comment. She said that, Swami, if he sings a little bit a little bit at the highest shruti, Inka baguntadi. Inka baguntadi, she said. She didn't tell that Inka baguntadi means it will be better. But she actually did not say that these fellows not singing well. Okay. And that was because of the state of mind in which I was. And then when Swami said, then immediately what Swami told, see, that's how Swami always comes to our rescue, right? He said, Yendi, parledu kada, bagne partner kada. No, don't worry. He's singing well only, no? So, see, that's where, how Swami actually gets out of our, this morass of this dark thinking, bad thoughts, he just gets it out so that, we can perform or sing up to his expectation and then give him the necessary happiness. So this is something which I thought that all of us, and this was very, very hard work, right? Basically that was a lesson which Swami always taught through our practices. Numpty number of times, Arvind, you would have experienced how many times Swami will come for this thing. But basically, he always taught us that it is very necessary for us to prepare ourselves.
Correct.
It is very necessary to work hard. It is very necessary that we put in our best effort.
Yes.
It is very necessary that we work towards excellence. It's very necessary that we work towards giving our best, right? That's what he always taught us.
So whether we knew it or not, we have already moved into the how.
Yeah.
We have been discussing what makes Swami happy, what makes us happy, why do we want that happiness? Because we want to be with Swami. When do we want to be happy with Swami? Throughout our student life, throughout our life. When does Swami wants to make us happy? Every moment of our life.
Yeah, and the one more thing which I wanted to say was, everybody, right? All of us, when as we were in Puttapati, we always used to think We always believed in Swami's omnipresence and omnipotence, right? We always
Totally.
used it. Even our thoughts, no. If I think this way, how will it be? Will Swami like it or not? Right?
Not only that,
That's
he would respond. Like
exactly.
we do something, some mischief somewhere, and think that nobody has seen it.
Yeah.
And then he comes sweetly during darshan, just stands in front of us, pretends to sign a photograph for some other boy, and mumbles out so that only we can hear. It will sound like a murmur to somebody else,
Yeah.
but it will be like a thunderbolt to us.
Yes.
I was alone, but he was watching. Yes, bhai, totally with you on that. He was always watching, always listening, always guiding, and always holding us. He would never ever allow us to go on the wrong path. And he does that even now. As Sainath sir was saying,
now, right, correct.
Even now, he was saying that, like, there are different ways in which he communicates with us, even though physically we may not see Swami. He has his ways of reaching out to us. I think now we really need to get down to that, because whether we knew it or not, we are always talking about the how Swami made us happy, how we reached out to us, how he touched our heart, how he taught us that bhava, the intention is so important. At one point in time, Swami mentioned, see, a good action with a bad intention is a bad action. A bad action with a good intention is a good action. So it's all the intention that matters. We may feel, Arjuna felt the same thing, Dharmaraja felt the same thing. We may feel that we might be doing something wrong. No, when Swami says something, it is meant to be done. That's it. Just think about it. Let go of everything. Don't think about it. Let go of it. Swami ne bola bas kar dalo. Swami said, atta cheyandi, finished. I still remember, I think Sainath sir would have been witness to more of these instances when big discussion will go on. Swami will be sweetly playing with the handkerchief, or he'll be patting the arm of his chair, or he'll be rotating the chair. And then at the end of that whole brouhaha, Swami will simply say, Hamare khayal mein, pin drop silence everywhere. All notebooks will close, all pens will close, everybody will come back. In Telugu, Swami used to say, now Deshamlo finished. All discussions vaporize, all intelligence vaporizes. It is just so. So he gives you the chance. Chalo, thoda rant karna hai, karo. You want to say, you want to do, you want to talk, whatever you want to do, you do. End of day, when I say something, it is meant only for your good. Swami edi chesina mee manchike. Manchi chedu anna bhavam mee mind lo undu. Swami personally told in a discourse, Manchi jarigina Swami prasadame. Even if good happens, it is Swami's prasadam. Chedu jarigina, it is Swami prasadame. Even if bad happens, it is Swami's prasadam. Manchi chedu mee talampu kani Bhagavantudu eppudu meeku manche chestadu. Good and bad is your talampu, your thought, but God will only do good for you. And that link is happiness.
Yeah.
To get into that sync, saying, Swami, theek hai, I have a ligament tear, I can sit at home and I can actually sit and cry saying, I'm not able to go out, I'm not able to do my exercise, I can't go to office, boo, boo, boo and all that. But the best chance is you lie on your bed and you get the Shoda Sopacharam from your entire family because of that ligament tear. Look at the half full glass. So with Swami, it is always joy. Without Swami, it is always confusion. So we give in.
Okay, one second, Nirav bhai, Brother Arvind. I have to do my timekeeper role.
Oops, I'm so sorry.
Sorry. No issues. I would love to go beyond, but I'm not sure. I want the conclusion to be heard by everybody too. So what I would say is, we've got 15 minutes into it. Let's break it into 4 minutes each. Go on what you think is the way happiness is a sustained process. Sainath sir talked about journey. Well, if we take repeated journeys, that's also fine. But then how do you have this equanimity? We also spoke about equanimity earlier. I think Sainath sir spoke about that. So if we can have multiple dimensions to sustaining happiness in all that we do, from your perspective of what you have gone through as a student to how you are practicing it now, that will be useful insights for many young minds listening to this satsang. So each one of you, I would say,
I'll just keep it brief. I'll just take 3 minutes. And the way Swami pointed out to us when we started working in Bhagawan's institutions, when Swami once said, I will just start with this and end with the points which Swami said, how to get the job done, basically. There was a central trust incident when Swami was there, and one brother asked Swami, we should always be with you. And then Swami said, who is going to do my work outside if you are always with me? Then I said, Swami, you always be with us. Then Swami said, yes, that is the right prayer. I will always be with you. Pray that I should always be with you. I will get your entire work done. Now, the constant integrated awareness to reach that level wherein, Swami is with us every single moment of our life is difficult. So, on this journey to happiness, the moment we remove the mind from it and we just follow what Swami says, things become very, very, very easy. That's what Swami used to tell during hostel days. But some boy complained to Swami, hostel discipline is tough. Swami said, I put that discipline because you will have only two priorities in your life, Swami and study, in that order. Swami first, study next. If study is not there, Swami. If Swami is not there, study. So darshan college, darshan college, darshan college. That's all. That should be your mindset. That's all. In your professional life also, set your priorities correctly. Right? So instead of we reevaluating our points, Swami sweetly gave us the 9-point code of conduct. You just set yourself into that discipline wherever possible. You may not fulfill all 9. I mean, everybody has their weaknesses. I humbly confess, all points, I may not be able to fulfill all 9. But the very thought that, yes, Swami, I am trying to move towards you, Swami will respond. As we said, the intention is important. You take 1 step towards Swami, Swami will take 10 steps towards you. And what are the 9? I mean, is it so difficult? Daily meditation and prayer, get up in the morning, Karagre Vasate Lakshmi, that is wonderful. Brahmarpanam, you're thinking of God. When you're sleeping, Karchana Kritamva at night, you're thinking of God. That is your daily meditation and prayer. If you can extend that 45-second Karagre Vasate Lakshmi or Karchana Kritamva to maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes of silent contemplation of Swami, that's your prayer. Devotional singing. Bhajans are a part of our regular life. But as Hirak Bhai clearly pointed out, if bhavam is not there and we go only by ucharana, you are out of sync. So bhavam is important. See, there itself you're internalizing Swami. Third, participation in spiritual activity by children of the family. We have Bal Vikas. Okay, for me, that's an exception because Swami blessed me with a different way of life. But wherever we have children, participation of them in service. So you have community service in Bal Vikas. It's not a very big thing. It's once a week. That can be done. Regular attendance at devotional meetings. We have samitis, we have local temples. I mean, spirituality is not an alien religion or an alien concept to all of us. It's there everywhere. We just need to recognize that. Regular study of Swami's literature as a habit. Swami said, Andaru, read, Chadavandi. That's a beautiful library. We have 700 books collection. Everybody's got electronic. So entire Sathya Sai Speaks is there in my pen drive, in my phone. So at night when I'm not able to sleep, open and start reading. You read Swami's literature. Use of soft loving speech. I'm just reading out the point so I don't miss the sequence. Soft loving speech. Swami always says, you cannot always oblige, but you can speak always obligingly. A million times Swami has given aphorisms. In fact, I mean, all my brothers would be witness how Swami, my God, how beautifully he manages people just through words. I mean, you could see Parshurama and, Vishwamitra, Durvasa standing to opposite each other. And Swami is able to bring both of them right down to the level of Vasishtha or Valmiki and calm them down. So that is Bhagawan. Avoidance of talking ill of others. I can narrate a personal instance in this. I was cursing some guy by washing clothes in the bathroom because that guy did not do something that I liked. He did something that I did not like. And then Swami stopped talking to me for 1 week. At the end of the week, when I realized that was the reason, I go back, Swami says, Koncham kadu, chala, not a little. You slipped your tongue a lot. And he says, Sarvadeva Namaskaram Keshavam Pratigatyati. He points to himself. This is in 3rd block, in Sai Kulvantal, just before the bhajan started. Sarvadeva Namaskaram Keshavam Pratigatyati. Sarvadeva, in his inimitable style, left hand behind his back, with right hand is making the points. Oh my God, Sarvadeva Tiraskaram Keshavam Pratigatyati. And he says it in such a beautiful, mellifluous manner that it doesn't hurt you, but he gets the message across. Don't talk ill of others, especially in their absence. Proof of concept. Practice principles, ceilings on desires. And okay, in all humility, Corona has been a blessing that way. So ceiling on desires, or even on people who could not have ceiling on desires, has been forced upon them. So as I said, Manchi jarigina, Swami Prasadame, Chadu jarigina, Swami Prasadame. So even if we consider Corona as bad, that is also is for our good only. So ceiling on desires consciously. Now we know the new difference between a need and a want. I think now our kids are understanding it better. The difference between a need and a want. What is privileged, what is not privileged. So my humble feeling about on this journey of happiness to Swami is, Arvind, stop thinking, just start doing what Swami told you to do. Just do. Karishya Vachanam Tava Swami. These are the Vachanams given by Swami himself. I mean, do we need more? So, this journey of happiness towards what I define as happiness, what somebody else defines as happiness may vary, but the experience is the same. Definitions may differ, the feeling is the same. So, what I feel as the how part of going to Swami is this is the 9 point code of conduct. If we understand God is love, where there is love, we understand service. When we start serving, we understand God is everywhere. And our happiness lies in the happiness of others. These are the experiences that you get when we follow these things. So, this is how I would conclude. Thank you. Bye.
And I will probably have Sainath sir finishing up. Hirok bhai, if you can go and sum up your views on this.
Yeah. In terms of what I would, as recently as Shivaratri of 2020, actually Swami sent a message to me. Okay, what was the message? The message was, why is it, how long can I wait? Why does he not trust that I will do the best for him? Let him do the best, and then I will do the rest for him. This is what basically Swami said. So basically, the first thing which we need to do is, in order to internalize Swami, like take for example, if we get up in the morning and then do that Karagri Vasate, and then do a prayer in the night by remembering God, right? That's first thing. I'm reminded of a Chinna Katha which I heard, wherein one of the, what do you call, one of the butchers, everybody thought that, oh my God, he's such a bad profession. One of butchers, but then God used to treat him. He was actually taken as a great devotee of God. You know why? Simple thing. He used to, when he used to get up in the morning, he used to pray to Lord, and then before going to sleep, he used to pray to Lord. So that's the first thing. We remember God in the morning, and then we also remember God in the during it. That does not mean that we do not remember Him throughout the day, because we know that whatever I'll do my best. I'll work hard. I'll do my best, and I'll be empathic. I'll be what do you call it? Compassionate, and then I'll be humble. These are the things which Swami taught us in our daily life, right? Being empathic, being compassionate, and being humble is something which Swami actually exhibited throughout his life. And then work hard, because duty is God and work is worship, right? And then never be jealous of others. Never compare yourself with others. Do your best, because God will always do the best for you. Then, over and above that, uh, uh, always have a lot of contentment in you. That is something known as ceiling on desires. Have contentment. Once you have these things, right, I believe we will be in constant touch with Swami. We will be in constant union with Swami, and we'll always have happiness in our lives. By these are the things which I feel that this is how I would conclude. Yeah, sign up.
Brother Sainath.
Yeah, thank you. Summing up a great discussion is always a very difficult job. And and I think the last part that we discussed is what would have been the major takeaway of this panel discussion. Like, how do we basically come to the terms that we require a union with God? And in these days, how do we practically achieve it? So yes, Arvind was perfectly right. There is so much available in the literature, but everybody has their own concerns. Everybody's welcome to dive into this literature, take what suits them, and develop their own bridge and union with God so that they can have happiness in their life. Hirok sir also mentioned a few points, about how people should develop this union with God so that they have a happy life, whether it's a profession or this thing. Now, I have a peculiar problem in the sense that one of the times when I was discussing few of these things in a samiti, one of the Samiti members asked me, sir, you experience Bhagwan at very close quarters. It's very easy for you to tell all this. So I had to take a step back. Then I thought that yes, what I have to speak should be from my practical experience. That is when I did lots of work on this, and I came up with a very simple incident, which I think the reason Bhagwan made me experience this was he wanted me to learn this lesson. I remember once Mr. Chiranjeev Garu came up to Bhagwan with a very peculiar kind of an incident, you know. He said, Swami, the devotees are grumbling. Swami said, what grumbling? Then he said, Swami, they are saying that the atmosphere in Prasanthi Nilayam is not at all conducive for spiritual progress. Swami started smiling and he said, oh, is that so? Why? I said, Swami, wherever they go, they find that people are grumbling, fighting, shouting at them. Starting from the accommodation office, somebody is shouting at them. Sevadal is shouting at them. You go to kitchen, somebody is shouting at them. You go to the building site for meditation, they are shouting in loud volumes. So they said in this kind of environment where everybody seems to be shouting at everybody and there's lots of gossip and all going around, even in darshan timings, there are some devotees are feeling that this environment is no longer conducive for spiritual progress. Then a master situation came up from Bhagwan. His response was something which is fantastic. He said, no environment which God creates for you anywhere in this world is not suitable for you. They're all meant expressly for you. If you are found in a situation where you think things are not working out for you, please remember, God has thought about what you require and put you in that environment. Then he said in Telugu, భక్తులు ఇక్కడ ఇక్కడ సునాయాసంగా లేదు, అందరూ అరుచుకుంటున్నారు, కబుర్లు చెప్పుకుంటున్నారు, మీన్స్ ఎవ్రీబడి ఈస్ గాసిపింగ్ అండ్ ఎవ్రీబడి ఈస్ షౌటింగ్. ఇఫ్ దే ఆర్ సేయింగ్, it is because the very vices they are accusing others of is present in them. So the environment God has created first lets you identify your own deficiencies, and then it is enough to design so that we can work on our deficiencies and overcome them. And Chiranjeevi Garu asked Swami, Swami, what happens when we come and conquer this? We understand this lesson, what happens? And Swami said, the day you understand and conquer your deficiencies, the environment will change immediately. You will no longer face the same environment. So every environment in the world today, we are faced with what appears to be a cage that is closing all around us, capturing us in their vices and their, shackling us with their feelings and emotions, and seems to be all the time working contrary to us. The reason is very simple. That is Bhagavan telling us that we have a lesson to learn from this environment. I believe very strongly, I have experienced it very strongly, that the day we realize what our lesson Bhagavan is trying to teach us and we learn that lesson, the environment will change. I experienced it, trust me. There are at least 3 I can quote right now, one of them being very powerful, wherein the person whom I thought was actually troubling me was all the time sitting there in my life because Bhagavan had put him there. I had to identify a particular defect in my character, and the day I learned it and overcame it, that person was transformed. So I strongly believe, and that's my sincere sharing of my suggestion to everyone who is listening on this, trust in the environment in which God has placed us in. There is a lesson for us to learn from that environment. Let us learn from that environment. A second point I would like to talk about and conclude with that is, it's very difficult to understand, what Bhagwan really expects. How do we generate this communication with Bhagwan? The time is so hectic. Early morning, we get up, we have a bus to catch, we have a train to catch, we have a drive to the traffic, we have to reach our office on time. Otherwise, thumbing in is delayed by 2 minutes. We get letters from our superiors. Thumbing out should be bang on schedule. I'm again caught in traffic. 24/7, we are caught up in all these activities. So, in fact, in Tribrindavan, one of the students asked Swami, the hostel schedule is so tight, Swami. Morning, 5 o'clock, there's a bell. I have to stand in line to brush my teeth. Then I have to stand in line for tea. Then I have to stand in line for breakfast. Then I have to stand in line to go to college. Then I have to stand in line for darshan. 24/7, my life is going in lines only, Swami. So where am I going to get time to do my sadhana? Then Swami said, Bangaru, you have 24 hours for your sadhana. So there was a very startled silence. He said, how 24 hours? Who is going to do all these activities? Then Swami started. When you wake up early in the morning, Karagre Vasate Lakshmi, Karamule Saraswati, Karamadhyet Govinda Pratha Kardarsana. Means you look at your hands and tell your hand is very Govinda. Karagre Vatate Lakshmi, Karamule Saraswati, Karamadhyet Govinda. The gods are there in your hands. Wake up and dedicate this day to these gods. Then when you wake up in the morning, before you touch the Mother Earth, pray, Mother Goddess, I'm going to touch you. Please bless me so that my feet are sanctified by your touch. Then pray to God. When you have your bath, feel that you are praying, you are washing your body, the temple of God, purified so that you are again thinking of God. When you're having your breakfast or lunch or dinner, think that it is a prasadam of Lord Himself which you are partaking, and eat it with that piousness. May this food sanctify us, may this water sanctify us. When you are sitting in your workplace and you're working, think that you're working under the God's guidance Himself. Think of God once again. So every throughout, when you're playing, think that this is a teamwork in which you're playing, and God is teaching you about how to be fair and square in your game of life. So he said, with every action, so the mistake which we are making is we are trying to find time and distinguishing our daily activities as separate from our spiritual activities. That was the pointer which Bhagawan was giving. There is no distinction. Integrate the two. Everything that we do, every breath we take, let us dedicate it to God Himself. Where is the time of hunting? Where is the question of hunting for time now to believe and dedicate our lives to Bhagawan and think of God? Our very existence becomes an offering to the Lord. That is the kind of union which we should develop with Bhagawan, so that every moment, without any effort, extra effort from our side, we continue to be in touch with God and experience that great happiness, fill our lives with that happiness which we are desperately looking for. I think these two lessons is what I would say are answering the question how to generate that union with God so that our lives become sanctified with the happiness and the holy bliss of union with Him.
So wonderful. I can't believe the way when you were saying this, do everything thinking of God. It reminds me of that video where Swami is talking in Tamil and telling some boy about to get his poonal done, say Gayatri. He shows his hands as the water dribbles down. Say Om Bhurbu Swata Sadruridam. It just explains that you don't need a time for it. Just do it as you are doing your daily duties. That was a very powerful conclusion. I think Brother Arvind gave the fact of don't go searching for paths. It's defined. If you just follow the actions as in the 9-point code of conduct, that's an option. Brother Hirok was always talking of surrender. I mean, I think his point is always surrender everything, and then everything will happen the way. And Sainath sir has put it in a manner where he says every act that we do, if we associate God during the act, there is constant union that is there. And that is the feeling of being happy, connecting what you do and realizing the constant presence of God by your side, as you said about Partha and Arjuna earlier. Krishna earlier. So I can't thank all of you enough. I would like to request Sister Vasantha, the president of Sathya Sai International Organization, Singapore, to say a few words to thank all of you and thank Swami. So over to Sister Vasantha.
Sai Ram. My humble pranams at the lotus feet of Bhagawan. Words can't express my feelings of happiness having heard from you brothers the last 2 hours. It's been amazing. But first of all, allow me to wish all of you happy 95th birthday of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. May he shower his choicest blessings on all of us and Mother Earth. Thank you, dear brothers, for transporting us to Prasanthi Nilayam and to Sai Kulwant Hall. We miss being in Sai Kulwant Hall all the time. And it's never been easy for all the devotees who have been traveling to Prasanthi so often and not being able to travel now. The whole sharing is so visual and so intense, feeling Swami's presence as you all spoke. Swami says, true happiness has no limits. Felt such happiness, boundless love and energy from your sharing. This topic, happiness is union with God, is also very apt for me personally. The last 8 to 10 months have been very challenging for me in terms of my health. When I heard beauty lies not only in Swami giving us, but in receiving, and that pain indicates the birth of a new life, that it is a blessing that Swami is giving, I absolutely connected with that, reaffirming my understanding of what I'm going through. And know for sure that Swami is walking with me through this journey. For me, it is surrender. Dear brothers Arvind, brother Sainath, and brother Hirok, once again, on behalf of Sai devotees from Singapore and the Sathya Sai International Organization, we thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts for being here with us this evening and for this amazing satsang. We hope we can have more of this. With that, even as we are facing challenges worldwide, these challenges have not stopped us from celebrating Bhagawan's birthday. We are doing with more fervor, love, determination, and devotion to reach out to all his devotees globally. No limitations, no boundaries, and the whole world is celebrating virtually, keeping our connection with Swami through so many programs. In Singapore, let me share the celebrations that we have planned for tomorrow, our dearest Bhagawan's 95th birthday. Can I have the slides, please? Yes. So tomorrow morning, we will start off with 6:30 a.m. for morning invocation through prayers. We'll have Swami's discourse and bhajans with closing arati. For the evening, we'll start at 7:45 p.m. for a heartfelt evening program with offerings by Sai Young Adults, SSC Children, and a beautiful Jula Mahotsavam, along with more. Let us be happy and touch Swami's heart. Let us all come together and celebrate his 95th birthday. With that, thank you very much to all of you. Jai Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, we'll finish off with 3 Samastalokas and thanking Swami for his grace, for bringing these 3 diamonds. There are plenty of them. We're on the tip of the ocean. And I think we cannot thank Swami enough for what has transpired over the last 2 hours, where his message was summed up so very simply and aptly at the end. So Samastalokas, please. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Bolo Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba Ji ki Jai. Sai Ram.